Hello, this is Simple Life Philosophy. I'm your host, Ed Raby. This is the channel where you're following along on my journey to a simpler philosophy of life that is both easy to understand and execute, that leads me to a simpler life of living that brings me both peace and productivity. Um, I always thank you all for any like, share, subscribe, comment. Those are all things that you can do for me. I always appreciate that. The YouTube algorithm likes all that stuff. The algorithm gods are fickle, but sometimes they come through for me. Today, um, it's Memorial Day in the United States. And for those of you that may not know what Memorial Day is, and I know Americans can't fathom this, but other people in other countries don't really always know all of our stuff. But Memorial Day, we have 3 days that I'm aware of, maybe somebody can add another one, that deal with the military in our country. The first one is Armed Services Day. That's a day to honor people that are actively serving in the military, that are currently and in the military and doing things for the military. Then we also have Veterans Day, which is kind of those that have served but left the military. Um, it's a you know it's a holiday where we kind of honor everybody who has served. Okay, who's not currently serving but has served. And Veterans Day can be a time of remembrance too, where we remember fallen people that have served. But Memorial Day, which is always the last Monday of May, is a holiday where we as a country pause to reflect, at least this is what we're supposed to do. We pause to reflect all the people that have died in the defense of the liberties of our country. I think it was Thomas Paine who said, the tree of liberty has to be watered with the blood of patriots. It's either him or Thomas Jefferson, or all the founding fathers kind of had that notion that in order to maintain liberty, sooner or later somebody's going to have to die. Somebody's going to have to, stand in between the tree of liberty and those that would destroy it and fight. And that it was their blood that kept the tree growing. And Memorial Day is a day to remember that blood. Now, I'm not a very spiritual guy. However, I think there's something socially constructive about remembering the fallen. It's a day, a very solemn day. It's a very somber day. It remembers those that have died in combat, died in war to preserve our freedoms. It's a day not for the living, but for the dead. Now, some people include, like any veteran who has died, whether they died in war or not, and that can be true. I know that when they go through all the graveyards, when they go through all the cemeteries in this country and they place flags, they're not really concerned about whether that person actually died in war or not, but they usually do this on Memorial Day. And so we can include them too, anybody who's died. But for me, a lot of people say, well, what do you feel about that? What do you think about that? I do not have a problem most of the time with the military. Every once in a while, the military makes a mistake, and it's an easily corrected mistake, and it's like, yeah, you're kind of dumb there. I like your recent thing with Afghanistan. I don't really care what the presidential orders were. Somebody should have thrown a grenade in some of those helicopters, things like that. There's a point where you have to do service to the military regardless of what your orders are, and we can debate whether you disobeyed orders or not later. I doubt that would have been really bad. Having stuff fall into the hands of an enemy like that is just bad business. So, yeah, there's moments where it's like, yeah, that's the case. But most of the time, I don't have a problem with the military. I have more of a problem with the politicians and how they use the military, and how all the exceptions to the rules that they give to themselves to use the military, in ways that are bad. And a lot of people have died, and we have this. I don't know. Memorial Day gives us this collective thought time about honoring the people that have died. They're not around here to receive our accolades. So, what are we doing it for? We're doing it for ourselves. We need to be reminded that not everything in life should just be handed to us. Okay, and not everything in life is just handed to us. Some things are given to us without a single sacrifice on our part, but somebody sacrificed everything so that we have it. And liberty to me is one of those things. Liberty is not a natural act of humans. If you look at human beings, you know, for the long part of our history, slavery was a normal part of worldwide events. I mean, every continent, every group, every race has had slaves, been enslaved, or whatever. Um, Recent incarnations of that aside, this is simply true. And it wasn't until very recent history that we decided that maybe slavery is a bad idea and we need to get rid of it. And then along comes a country like the United States who conceives itself in liberty, okay, giving freedom to its citizens, to even the point of those citizens being armed themselves in case the government becomes tyrannical. You know, if you read the Federalist Papers, this is the stuff that they talked about. And when this country was founded, we weren't really sure if it was going to make it. But when you really look back at it, it's the soldiers that died, that bled, that fed that tree of liberty and has kept it alive. You know, it's the person who stands and puts the watch on the wall and dies while standing watch. Yeah, they need to be reminded. We need to be reminded of that. I think we forget that a lot. We take our liberty for granted. We take our freedoms for granted, thinking they're free, and they're not. Um, they're very much bought with a price of blood. And I don't believe in anything spiritual, okay? But I do believe in human beings who sacrifice themselves for other human beings so that other human beings can live in freedom, live in liberty, live in things that, you know, and at this point in the history of our country, we can't say any color or creed has been out of that. Literally every color and creed has died, okay, at some point for this liberty that we enjoy. And so we have to give kudos to everybody. Nobody's been slacking. Nobody's been sitting back. You know, it's been us as Americans, as flawed and combative and divided as we sometimes are. We have united a lot in this fellowship of death that keeps the tree of liberty alive so that we can actually argue with each other. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? That we have these people that have sacrificed so that we can have debate and that we can be free to make our own decisions, that our life, into each individual life, is in our own hands. And I don't think it's a really bad idea to pause and remember that. There's an honor to it that we can emulate. There is a understanding of self-reliance, even, because I'm laying down my life so others can be self-reliant. There's something about that that we need to always keep in mind and in our heads. And while I may have a problem with how the politicians use the military, I don't have a problem with the most honorable thing that a man can do, which is stand between those that he loves and those that would take what he loves and lays down his life to make sure that those that he loves are free. There's something very honorable about that. Even people that they don't know are still kept free. And so Memorial Day is a day where I reflect on that. Yes, I have family members who are in the military. My father was in the Navy and in the Army National Guard. I have my grandfather flew B-17s in World War II, but you know, he didn't die in war. He came home. Um, my thoughts, though, rest on people that I don't know, who didn't know me, but gave everything. There's something about that that I find when people don't remember that and they don't honor that, there's something dishonorable about you. I mean, you don't have to agree with the politics of every war. You don't have to agree with everything. But if there's a regular human being who's just a soldier, a sailor, an airman, whatever it is, that stood between all the freedoms that you enjoy and something that wanted to take those away and gave their life so that you can keep free, I'm sorry, that's something that you should honor. Okay? You may not know all the stories, and maybe not everybody was motivated that way, but some of them were. And I think that's something that we need to remember. You know, as somebody who tries to find a simple life philosophy, I have the freedom to find that simple life because somebody else laid down theirs. And I don't I don't get into all the other politics of all this symbolism and stuff, but I do understand the necessity of memory, of remembering those that have fallen. I guess this is where the pagan philosophy comes in, you know, where things need to be, there's things called fidelity and honor and perseverance, things that these people remind me of and give me an example to strive for. Stoics often talk about finding good role models to emulate. A person who lays down their life for others is something to emulate. It really is. Regardless of sometimes the motivation. If the end result was you get to walk in liberty today because somebody else laid down their life, I think you probably should remember the person who laid down their life with a little bit of reverence and honor. And so that's kind of where I stand with this. There's nothing wrong with honoring the soldier or the sailor or the airman or the Marine or the Coast Guard guy who died, making sure that you were safe, making sure that your freedom isn't taken away from you by somebody else. There's nothing wrong with honoring those people. Nothing. Well, that's all I really have in today's Memorial Day meditations. I hope that you have enjoyed your holiday. And, this video will come up near the end of it. But hopefully you took some time to pause and reflect about what this holiday is all about. It's not about remembering the people currently serving. It's not about remembering people that served. It's literally reminding yourself that some of those people didn't come home. Well, some of them did come home, but they came home in a box draped in red, white, and blue. And that's something that needs to be respected. Thanks for stopping by. This has been Simple Life Philosophy with your host, Ed Raby. Here on this Memorial Day, I hope you take some time to reflect on the sacrifices made so that you can sit there and enjoy your day, because it's not a light sacrifice that some of them made. Thanks once again for stopping by, and you have a great day and a great holiday.